I've done a lot of videos on mini cuts lately because I've recently gone through one myself, and in all of those videos I have said so many times that most people should not be mini cutting. I've said that you probably shouldn't be mini cutting, and I've justified some of the reasons why I should be mini cutting, but I haven't sat down and done a detailed video on the exact reasons when, why and how you might decide to do a mini cut. So that is exactly what this video is going to be. Like I've said, most people should not be doing mini cuts, and they definitely are not an alternative for a traditional diet. They are used at completely different times for completely different reasons. But that being said, for every 20 people that shouldn't mini cut, maybe there's one person that should. So this video is going to go through the 5 situations where mini cutting is actually potentially a good idea. They aren't going to be the only 5 reasons, but they are 5 of the big reasons. If you think I've forgot any of them, drop them in the comments, subscribe to my channel and check out Progressive Physique Coaching, linked top in the description, and then we can get into the video. So the first reason to mini cut is to buy yourself more time gaining muscle and strength. Gains are made when you are fueling your body and when you are training hard with high volumes, not when you're under eating for months on end. So you don't want to be spending forever in a deficit. You want to be spending so much more of your time gaining. But the problem is that eating in a surplus inevitably leads to some fat gain. And if you're a competitor in bodybuilding like myself, you don't want to get yourself into a position where you're 30 pounds above stage weight and you have to do a drastic mega cut to get back to the stage. You want to stay within shooting distance of the stage weight. If you do this huge, crazy, drastic diet because you got way too fat in your off season, you'll come in fat and flat. So by doing mini cuts, you can prevent yourself from going above a top end of body fat, let's say around 15%. That way, if you look at it like you're trying to get to 5% on stage, you're never more than 10% away from your stage weight. And the reason I've put this first on the list is because it is one of the biggest reasons to mini cut. I myself am a prime example of this. So let's look at myself. I competed in September 2021. I went through 6 mesocycles of massing, which took me 9 months. And in that period of time, I gained 8 kilos above my stage weight. So that averages out to around ½ pound per week, which is a really decent rate of gain. I'm very happy with that. Obviously that 8 kilos isn't all muscle. I wish it was. But let's say that around 7 kilos would need to be lost. So in that time, I'd gained 1 kilogram of muscle, which would be amazing at this point. But anyway, cutting down 7 kilos, that would be fine if I was competing again this year. So if I kept gaining at this rate, but then to compete next year like I plan to, I'll need to lose 15 kilograms, which is 33 pounds, to get back to that predicted stage weight, and that is too much for me. So by doing mini cuts, you can create a sort of step ladder approach to your weight gain throughout your off season. And obviously you can't do this indefinitely. You can't mini cut your way through your whole life, but 1 to 3 mini cuts throughout an entire off season is a pretty good idea for most bodybuilders trying to stay relatively somewhat in shape. Next up is the obvious one, and that is improved aesthetics. We are all into lifting weights because we think that muscles look cool, and muscles do look cool, and to a certain extent gaining some fat around the muscle you have can actually make you look bigger. But then it becomes a fine line between looking bigger, and then you just look like trash. And most of us tend to prefer the way we look when we're leaner. So why would you decide to spend years and years of your life when you are not competing in between those shows, not being happy with the way you look, when you can implement quick, brief mini cuts to stay leaner and stay happier with your aesthetics? I do want to say though that this is a dangerous reason because it's very easy to fall in a trap, a habit of mini cutting the second you feel the slightest bit uncomfortable with your weight and with your body fat. And I do very much think that sometimes it is important to slightly push the boundaries of what you're comfortable with, to eke out some of that extra progression that you probably wouldn't get if you stayed in your comfortable, happy place. Sometimes you need to do things that are best for you, but sometimes you need to do the things that are best for your progress and for your results. And this is going to be one of those things where it's a very fine line between the two. But it is also very important to be happy and confident with the way you look and the way you feel. So if a 2 to 6 week fat loss phase 2 or 3 times a year is going to achieve that for you, then I say, why the hell not? Not to mention the fact that if you aren't truly satisfied with your approach, if you aren't happy with where your body fat levels is, you will be unintentionally holding yourself back because you won't commit to that surplus. You will unintentionally hold back, you will undereat, you will take a little bit less out of the jar and all those kind of things. Trust me, I've done it. So it is just all around better to be happy with your current aesthetic so you can commit to the phase you're in. We are now on to some of the less discussed reasons to mini cut, but just because they are less discussed, it does not mean that they are not important. And the first one of those is to improve appetite. For many people, when you're in a prolonged calorie surplus, a long time gaining weight, it becomes quite difficult to eat the amount of food that you need to continue gaining weight. It can be really hard for some people to believe that this is actually a thing, but it is. It's like an elastic band. Your body is happy being stretched this far and this far, but if you are gaining weight and stretching the elastic band, the further away you get from the other end, the more your body is going to fight back, the tighter that band is going to get. And if you are somebody with a very small elastic band, a little bit of weight gain can be very difficult, so do not underestimate the issues that this can cause some people. So yeah, for some people, they just get to the point where to gain any weight at all, they literally have to force feed themselves. And that is not healthy, and I would not recommend it at all. It affects you psychologically, it's bad for your actual internal body, and it can massively affect your training as well. This tends to be those naturally skinnier people that struggle with this. Definitely doesn't affect everyone, but there are those people out there. So by periodically inserting some mini cuts into your off season, you can give yourself some kind of relief from the calorie surplus. The mini cut will then be literally the easiest thing in the world, because you're going from a point where you are stuffing your face, force feeding, to then being allowed to eat less, so the weight will just absolutely fall off, and by the time you are starting to get some of that hunger back, great, because it's time to go back into that massing phase and eat up. It gives you a break from food, and it acts as a way to resensitize your appetite so that you actually want to eat again. Just 2 weeks of mini cutting could literally buy you a couple months more of massing. This is something that we saw from Steve Hall from Revive Stronger just a few weeks ago, and it's helped him massively, and I think it can help a lot of other people as well. Your body fat will be lower because you've brought it back down, if we go back to that elastic bands analogy, and your jaw musculature has had a bit of resensitization, a bit of recovery time. So all of this will help you have a much more productive massing phase to going forward, rather than if you had have just pushed through and kept force feeding. Another huge reason to implement mini cuts, one of the ones that was a big one for me, is improved training, sleep, and motivation mindset. So let's look at these individually. When it comes to training, if you are feeling sick, bloated, or bogged down by the sheer amount of food you're eating, do you think you're going to be training your best? Also, if you're pushing the bounds of what your body is comfortable with in terms of body weight, you're not going to be doing yourself any favors when it comes to endurance or recovery ability between sets. You're going to be that guy that takes 10 minutes of heavy breathing to recover from one set of squats. By cutting down some weight, you'll feel lighter on your feet, you'll recover faster, so you'll be able to do more volume, and just so many things will be better. Then moving on to sleep, some people find that their ability to get sleep at all, but especially the quality of the sleep they get, massively affected when they're having to eat too much food, because there's so much digestion that's going on, there's so much thermogenesis, they get so hot and sweaty. Sleep just becomes a really big issue when you're really pushing the boat out in terms of calories. Especially if you're a really big dude, you can get sleep apnea, and that's not good. So pulling back on food for a little bit, dropping some of that weight, can massively help out your sleep quality. And then when it comes to mindset and motivation, a brief break from a goal, that's difficult to say, can literally do wonders. Let's say you've been heavily focused on massing for 9 months, like I have. That is 9 solid months of always trying to eat as much food as you need. 9 months of always training super hard. 9 months of super high volume training. 9 months of thinking, am I growing muscle? Am I growing muscle? Am I looking bigger? Am I gaining muscle? And honestly, throughout 9, 10, 12 months of that exact same goal, things can get pretty stale. You can lose sight of what you're doing day in and day out. You can lose sight of whether you're making progress or not, and it's easy to just kind of go with the flow of things rather than actually pushing. But with a brief phase of fat loss, you can literally flip the goal entirely on its head, have a complete new mindset, a new approach to your training. You get lower volumes, you get less food, and suddenly you're seeing changes in the mirror quickly again, and it's just really refreshing, to be honest. And then when you do return back to massing, you are so refreshed from that change of pace, that change of scenery, if you like, that you will be way more productive in that next block of massing. And this was a big one for me because things were getting a little bit stale. I needed to switch things up, so I took my mini cut from a few of the reasons we mentioned today, and that refreshed me. It made me feel so much more motivated to go back into a massing phase. I was excited to do it, and then we smashed it. Essentially, you are taking a 1 month detour from gaining muscle to then gain more muscle in the following months, so it is definitely worth it. And the last reason we're discussing today is training resensitization. If you are doing your massing training correctly, then you should be really pushing the bounds in terms of your recovery with training volume. The reason being is that you're hypercaloric. You're giving yourself loads of food, hopefully getting loads of sleep. You should be able to recover from a lot, and if you can recover from a lot, you should be doing a lot to build a lot. But after months and months of pushing training volume, you just need more and more training volume to get the same stimulus for sometimes less growth. And that's obviously just not sustainable whatsoever. But when we go into a mini cut, we are training at much lower volumes. You're going to typically be training at maintenance volume, which when you are mini cutting is like your normal minimum effective volume, and you hold that steady throughout the whole mini cut mesocycle. So then when you go back into your massing training, you are suddenly refreshed to volume, you're resensitized to volume. You've been doing, let's say, 6-8 sets of back a week. You then go straight back in and we work through from MEV to MRV, and suddenly you are way more sensitive. Your MRVs are lower, so you have to do less to get more. So as you can see, there are far more reasons to mini cut than just because you're getting a little bit tronky. Now that definitely is a valid reason, but you've also got to consider longevity and how happy you are within your massing phase. You have to manage your appetite, your lifestyle, your motivation, your mindset. These are all a big deal in their own right when it comes to maximizing your progress. So if you're letting these drop off just so you can pound more food, then you're probably not going to be getting the most out of your training. You can find more information about Progressive Physique Coaching, my online coaching company, in the top link of the description. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more content every single week, and until the next one, see you later, guys.